Evacuation of thousands of families trapped in Maiduguri flooded areas by the Nigerian military, volunteers, and other security agencies to safer areas continues. Women, children, and vulnerable persons are mostly those trapped and being evacuated. As the water flows continue to recede, residents of some parts of the city are returning to their homes. The state governor, Babagana Zulum, has visited some of the camps where the victims are taking temporary shelter. The governor expressed his sympathy and commitment to assisting those affected by the flood. Speaking at Bakassi camp in Maiduguri, where he interacted with thousands of the victims of the devastating flood, the governor said, or rather attributed the disaster to the effect of climate change in the region.
What we are here is to distribute the sum of 10,000 naira to each and every heads of household that are affected by floods. And I also want to inform you that a few days ago, luckily enough, we received 3 billion naira from the federal government as flood intervention fund. So we are using this fund to support the communities that are affected by the flood. But inshallah, we shall come as early as possible to give them food items, especially rice and other support needed, to cushion the immediate effect. What really happened was that, the water that we received this year exceeds the carrying capacity of the dam. We have a very heavy storm. It might be associated with climate change. That is the most important thing. So what we need to do is to now reinforce the dam, reconstruct the dam, expand the capacity of the dam, and most importantly, defilt the drains.
We thank Governor Zulum, come and assist in the morning. He come and give people some money, some food, some bread. So we appreciate with the Governor Babagana Zulum. And also we are calling on other NGOs and other organizations.
Joining us now to review the Borno State flood and what should be done to avert a reoccurrence in the near future is Akube Iyamu, retired, former Acting Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
I would like you to do an assessment of the response by the federal government and also the state government and the National Emergency Management Agency. And to also address the question, is this climate change or just sheer negligence on the part of the Nigerian authorities? Because every year during the rainy season, we always hear this story about dams not being reinforced and people suffering. Look, we'll be here. This same thing will happen next year, as it happened last year, as it happened the year before. And it's the same excuse. We have not reinforced the dam, so the dam will overflow. Or it will be, if it's not Lagdo Dam, it is Alua Dam. If it's not Alua Dam, it is Ayua Dam. What are we really dealing with? Negligence or climate change, as they say?
Yes, thank you very much, Doctor. You see, the world was built for a climate that no longer exists. So what are you now saying? You see, since 21st of December, 1971, the world got to overshoot. What is overshoot? We overshoot the natural resources such that can be replenished as nature is bringing it out. And that has subsisted. If you look back since 1940, since when record for weather began, there has been 0.69 degree temperature addition to the temperature of the world. And this year, particularly 2024, has an additional 0.03 degrees centigrade. What has that done? Now, you have the Sahel, the active region, that's 15 to 35 kilometers of the atmosphere, very active, particularly the Sahel. Now, climate change is no longer controlled by seasons. It's not controlled by phenomena. We have a lot of phenomena now. Now, the largest ice in the Antarctica is being threatened now. It's unstable. That is A23A. It's unstable. What is it now doing? It's spilling out more water. Because of the temperature rise. Don't forget, this year, that's July 21st, we have the highest temperature ever in history. Now, because of the water that is coming, it's being pumped into the equator. What is the effect of that? You have slow in the movement of the earth around the sun. Nigeria is not in the equator, it's above the equator, but it's in the Sahel. And that is why the water is coming in there. Now, coming back to your second question, assessing the effort, before we go back to further to climate change. You see, at this point in time, we need to rescue the National Disaster Response Plan and modify it. Because it is very systemic in that it is leveraging disaster and the national security. You had 30 million people already dead. 1 million people displaced. Tomatoes destroyed. Now, if you look at the headwind, which is challenging us now, that is massive food insecurity, massive borrowing, and also for the first time, we are having more than 50% of borrowing to GDP. If we come and have another multidimensional natural disaster, where do we stand? Where do we stand? And the response agencies, this time around, since January, I have been warning. There have been so many warnings. In January, NEMA was here. We warned that NEMA is staying longer than necessary. What are we doing? In February, the NEMA stayed. In March, El Nino came earlier than necessary. We warned that, look, this El Nino is coming earlier than necessary. It is not for free. It's going to be very consequential on the Sahel. In April, we also warned that, look, the temperature is getting very, very high because the world has reached overshot. And what is that going to be? The temperature is rising and it's trapping down the pressure and the temperature with more water coming up. In May, it was also warned that the El Nino is bringing down so much temperature. In June 1st, we warned that, look, the storm season has begun. What are you doing about it? In July 21st, we also warned that the highest temperature has come. And in August, which is the world overshot, we also warned that, look, the temperature is consequential. But what we get from the response agencies is just prediction. Look, prediction, they have made prediction to replace planning, to replace preparation. And that will not help. See, if you are giving, we are not new to flooding. We have the one of 2012, we have the one of 2018, we have the one of 2022. We expected that, look, you would have created the constraints around all this and be able to create an anchor for solution to solve this particular problem. To say that we didn't see that of Bonu coming, the amount of water, no, it was there. Now, I sympathize with the governor and those that have died, but now that dam was created in 1985. 1985. And this same similar issue has happened before in 94. Now, we have between 324 to 340 dams in Nigeria. Now we're not talking of deseating it after the water has happened. Over the years, what has happened? We're talking of reinforcing it after the disaster has happened. Over the years, what has happened? See, statement of prediction, statement of annual flood that look, no, they no longer suffice. They no longer suffice. We need to deal with individual states. Right. Individual states. Now, what is the challenge of this state? What is the challenge of this state? And what is the challenge of this state? So that we can know how they contribute to the natural disaster. All right.
Now, when we talk about national disaster management, one thing that's critical is funding. We heard there in the video that just played that the governor of Borno State had said that the intervention by the federal government was 3 billion naira. Now, if you look at the National Bureau of Statistics, Borno State has received 816.34 million naira from the Ecological Fund between January and June of this year. Only 2.54% of that has been spent, at least from data received. To what extent do these funds contribute to ensuring that we mitigate the effects of disasters like this that's happened in Borno State if there were more interventions in infrastructure? How much funding, and why do you think the government might not have used the funds that have come to him in the period under review?
Thank you, Ayo, for that beautiful questions. You see, ecological fund is just a drop of the iceberg. You saw in Bauchi, the Bauchi state governor said 20 billion. That's a conservative estimate. I have always been an advocate of a developmental procedure for dealing with this natural disaster. It is not throwing money. No, there's a process. There's a process. By January, when you start seeing the temperature going to the north, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Now, the framework for intervention, you said 800 and something million. That's the tip of the iceberg. It will really not do anything. But if the processes are working, the money at the end of the day will just come very cheap. But if we leave everything with the volume of water, with the phenomenon that is happening, with the whole setup, I think that at the end of the day, we just bring in money and give them. No, the process must work. The process must work. See, now, if the dam was if the dam have excess water, that means somebody dropped the ball. The water didn't just fall in a day. It was gradually rising. So what did we do? What we should have been more concerned now, Ayo, is the flood stage. That is the receding flood. We were told that animals were washed out of the zoo to the streets. Then you are having zoonotic disease threats. We are going to have a disease maybe we're not used to. Cholera will be there, graves were assumed, toilets were assumed, and pathogens were put inside that water. What are we going to do? Now, it is not a matter of 800 million or 3 billion intervention. No, it's a whole of nation approach intervention now. Yesterday, they said two-thirds of Maiduguri, from one reporter from a sister station, said was affected. That is massive. That is massive. We cannot have multi-dimensional natural disaster to come adjourned with multi-dimensional poverty. Borno State was already down with insecurity. Now we want to have disaster. We really need to move in. It's not, ecological fund cannot intervene in the solving of problems now. That is why we say, look, when you are managing climate change now, go for head hunting. Get the right people that will attract the fund. You are not going to fund it from envelope budget. No, okay. You can't fund it from it. There are funds everywhere now, everywhere for you to use. Okay. Let me just land, please. You see, there is debt for nature financing now, which is very robust. But you must create a process that will be able to allow you to get there.
Okay, sir. So I'd like to disagree with you that this is about climate change, and I'll tell you my reasons. I'd like to disagree with you. This largely is about incompetence and the fact that the dam was not bolstered. We had this same occurrence in 1994, exactly the 13th of September 1994, when this same Alu Dam burst its banks. 1994 was just about 10 years after it was built, between 1984 and 86. And it burst its banks. As at that time, the talk about climate change was not as big. In fact, Al Gore had not done his Inconvenient Truth documentary. Negligence of the dam. We talked about Lagdo Dam and a couple of other dams, and the integrity of those dams have been really hampered in this country. So to a large extent, what was the integrity and what was the monitoring mechanism of water in those dams? Since we know that definitely at this time of the year we'll have rains. So what was the monitoring mechanism and integrity of those dams? That's number one. Secondly, is there any national relief fund that can be set up at least to be able to help the victims that Nigerians that are watching might want to donate to if they have the capacity? Anyway, they're already stressed with poverty and economic imbalance, but out of the milk of human kindness, so that we can really take action. Because we can't leave those people to just the 3 billion the government has given them. Those are the two questions.
Anyway, Rufai, to say that it is not climate change, you'll be very, very far from the truth. Let me take you back. 1986 was where the highest iceberg cut out from the Antarctica glacier in 1986. Now, what has that done? You have glacier and glacier. Glacier is just the adjective. You have a pool of water forming. And climate change has been there, very, very visible. Now, you're coming back again. In 1982, ExxonMobil warned everybody that carbon emission will push the temperature to 1 degree by the year 2000, and that has happened. To say that climate change does not exist then, the whole effect, what we are having now is that the water that is supposed to fall for a year or so is falling for 2 days. And Rufai, go back and go and check. There's so much water in the equator now, quite unusual. And you are having inverse geomorphology now. What does that mean? You are having mega flooding and high magnitude flooding, but with very low frequency. That is the water that is being dumped inside the dam now. And it's not only this dam. You saw it in Sudan. You saw it in Vietnam. So climate change is 99.9% responsible. For negligence, yes. Why was the dam not deseated? Why was it not reinforced? Why was it? When it was built, what was the population of Maiduguri? No, you were going to have a whole lot of water coming in now. Then we should have a visage there to say that, look, the trajectory we are going positively, the population and everything, we should begin to go in this direction, expand the dam, deseat it. Dams are like cars.
So why was all of that
not
done? They
have to be maintained.
So why was all of that not done?
That's is the question.
You. So you can't just blame. See, I'm not listen to me, sir. I'm not a climate denier. I know there's climate change. I've watched Inconvenient Truth. I've been in forums where Al Gore was speaking and I listened. I know the narrative. You can't tell me about temperature rising. But on this, I'm also challenging, because I'm seeing the narrative flying around. People are quickly to push it to climate change. What about our own negligence? That's what I'm saying. So why wasn't the dam desilted? Why wasn't everything that needed to be done to the dam at that point in time? Till today, we are still talking about Lagdo Dam. The one that happened last year with Lagdo Dam, is it climate change too? I'm sure till today, Lagdo Dam has not been fixed. So why wasn't Alu Dam not looked after all this while? That's my question. I'm not a climate denier. I know there's climate change. We are on the same page.
Thank you. Thank you very much that you are there. Yeah, you see, I agree with you substantially for negligence and all in fixing the dam. You see, here, the response agencies and all. And like I said, somebody dropped the ball. For a dam does not just overflow in 1 minute or 2 minutes. No matter the amount of water, it begins to tell you, look, green, yellow, and red. Somebody was supposed to have done his work. Again, because we have compromised. Can I just land on this thought before?
Okay, the point is
because
clear.
We have compromised the watershed and a whole lot of things. Yes.
The point is clear. But in the 1 minute or so that is remaining, as someone who has been in charge of emergency, management in this country, what would be your recommendation so that we don't wake up tomorrow and they say another dam has burst its embankments in Oyo State or Ogun State, or that the Cameroonians have released water again and we'll still be talking about flooding? And conveniently we'll say it's climate change when Nigerian officials always drop the ball, to use your expression. What should we do to prevent this kind of disaster?
Dr. Ruben, dams in Nigeria will get filled, and we are going to have a repeat of this again. But what we are going to do now, they have to be punishment for bad behavior. Somebody was in charge of that dam. What did you do? Why did you not alert the authorities? Why did you allow it to get to national embarrassment before you are not talking? It is very good to blame it on climate change, like you rightly observe, but other nations are managing climate change. They are creating anchor to be able to manage the constraints of climate change. Why was it not done there? And for the people of Maiduguri, now it's a whole of nation approach. It's a catastrophe, it's a national disaster. Now, the National Disaster Response Plan said that everybody should move there now. Because what is going to be affected, the health sector, the schools, the everything will be affected, because the schools now will be used as holding point. The children are not going to go to school. The IDP camps that you are going to create, that people will move into, how are you going to administer them? How are you going to administer? And you have to create insurance now, agricultural insurance, because some of the people since 2012 that were displaced of their lives and livelihood are still on hold. You have to create insurance now to enable these people get back, because insurance, agricultural insurance now is now an integral part of fighting food insufficiency across the world. And like yesterday, the directive, we don't need the president to tell us, to come and tell the agencies that, look, all of you should move there. And no, it should be a process. It should be a process. And the National Disaster Response Plan should be available to everybody. As we are coming for this interview now, the National Disaster Response Plan should have been with you. You should have been asking questions from there, but I'm sure you have never seen it. Look, flood outlook, flood disaster prediction is not planning, and you should be taken out of that.
Well, on that note, we would like to thank you very much, AVM Iyamu, retired, for joining us on the morning show today.